Science, it cannot be too often repeated, deals with the actual readings of actual instruments while permitting only those most economical descriptions of the phenomenon recorded. It is permissible, of course, to posit certain thought experiments, thereby deducing from a known law the necessary consequences of hypothetical situations. Within an interstellar elevator, for instance, the gravitational equations of Sir Isaac Newton will appear to be obeyed, as indicated by all instruments, thereby leading physicists within the elevator to posit the Newtonian explanation of their observations. To a physicist outside the elevator, however, the same data will be explained by the law of inertia. This line of thought is amusing and perplexing. There is, you may begin to see, a principle of neurological relativism as well as of physical relativism. Yes, my two observers, while trying to measure a moving rod, while they are themselves moving at different velocities, that is the relativism of the instrument. But take, let us say, a man who is a Russian, vegetarian, pacifist, and a woman who is an Italian, Catholic, conservative, each trying to understand. None of it will mean the same to both of them. That is the relativism of consciousness, of the nervous system itself. So then, precisely as my physicists in the elevator can never tell from within the elevator whether the downward force is gravity or inertia, so too, no two persons can tell from within their nervous systems what presumed external force provides the signals they receive. This is why, of course, the atheist and the religious can argue forever without either convincing the other. We are trapped. Trapped by our ideas. Forever. In the position of the 5 blind men and the elephant. The rules of our neurological chess game determine the form or context with which we frame each new signal. The player on the other side, as Huxley said, is hidden from us. The absolute is reason. Reason is by means of itself. It is because it is. It is not because we suppose it is where nothing exists. But nothing could possibly exist without it. Reason is necessity, law, the rule of all liberty, is the direction of every initiative. If God is, he is by reason. The conception of an absolute deity outside or independent of reason is the idol of black magic. The phantom of the demon. The supreme intelligence is necessarily rational. God, in philosophy, can be no more than a hypothesis. But a hypothesis imposed by good sense on human reason. To personify the absolute reason is to determine the divine ideal. Necessity, liberty, and reason. Behold the great and supreme triangle of the Kabbalists. Vitality, will, and power. Such is the magical tetrary, which in human things corresponds with the divine triangle. Fatality is the inevitable linking together in succession of effects and causes in a given order. Will is the faculty that directs the forces of intellect so as to reconcile the liberty of persons with the necessity of things. The argument from these premises must be made by yourself. Each one of us does that. Seek, say the holy writings, and ye shall find. Yet discussion is not forbidden. And without doubt, the subject will be fully treated of in your hearing hereafter. Affirmation, negation, discussion. It is by these the truth is attained. To explore the great mysteries of the universe and to seek to solve its manifold enigmas is the chief use of thought and constitutes the principal distinction between man and the animals. Accordingly, in all ages, the intellect has labored to understand and explain itself the nature of the supreme deity. That one reason and one will created and governed the universe is too evident not to be at once admitted by the philosophers of all ages. It was the ancient religions that sought to multiply gods, the nature of the one deity and the mode in which the universe had its beginnings are questions that have always been the racks in which human intellect has been tortured, and is chiefly with these that the Kabbalists work. It is true that in one sense we can have no actual knowledge of the Absolute itself, the very deity, our means of obtaining what is commonly termed actual knowledge, and our senses only. If to see and feel knowledge, we have none of our own soul of electricity, of magnetism. We see and feel and taste an acid or an alkali, and know something of the qualities of each. But it is only when we use them in combination with other substances and learn their effects that we really begin to know their nature. And it is the combination of experiments of chemistry that give us knowledge of the nature and powers of most animal and vegetable substances. As these are cognizable by inspection, by our senses, we may partially know them by that alone. But the soul, either of ourself or of another, is being beyond that cognizance, can only be known by the acts and words, which are its effects, magnetism and electricity, when at rest are equally beyond the jurisdiction of the senses, and when they are in action we see, we feel, hear, taste, and smell only their effects. We do not know what they are, but only what they do. We cannot know the attributes of deity, only through his manifestations. To ask anything more is to ask not knowledge, but something else, for which we have no name. God is a power, but we know nothing of any power itself, but only its effects, results, and action, and what reason teaches us by analogy. In these latter days, and laboring to escape from all the material ideas in regard to deity, we have so refined away our notions of God as to have no idea of him at all. In struggling to regard him as pure material spirit, we have made the word spirit synonymous with nothing, and can only say that he is a somewhat with certain attributes, such as power, wisdom, and intelligence. To compare him to light would now be deemed not only unphilosophical, but equivalent of atheism, and we find it necessary to excuse the pity the ancients for their inadequate and gross ideas of deity, expressed in considering him as the light principle, the invisible essence or substance from which visible light flows. Yet our own holy writings continually speak of him as light, and therefore that Sabians and the Kabbalah may well be pardoned for doing the same, especially since they did not regard him as the visible light known to us, but as the primordial ether ocean from which light flows. Before the creation, did deity dwell alone in darkness, or in light? Or did the light coexist with him? Or was it created after an eternity of darkness? And if it coexisted, was it an effluence of him, filling all space as he also filled it? He and the light at the same time, filling the same space in every place. Sunday, October 31st, Halloween night, 7:30, free admission, all ages. Slay the Dawn, Perish the Land, Gas Mask Attire, Southern Front, and Violora. Come out for a truly hellacious Hoax Halloween. 511 East 6th Street, Hoax Death Metal Pizza.